clear weather. With that cold air and those clear skies, temperatures are going to drop, just about holding up above freezing towards the south in some towns and cities, but most places falling a fair few degrees below. In fact, across parts of Scotland, it could get into negative double figures. So a harsh frost for many of us, widespread icy conditions. There could be still some lying snow in places, and the ice is going to lead to some difficult driving conditions as well. First thing tomorrow morning, the ice risk is across much of the country, really, just towards the south-southeast, where temperatures hold up that little bit higher. Less of an ice risk here, but nonetheless, there could still be some frost in prone spots as well. So a cold, frosty, icy start to the day tomorrow, but a bright one. Lots of sunshine on offer for most of us. Perhaps a bit of cloud lingering across some parts of East Anglia, but elsewhere, a sunny morning before some high-level cloud sweeps its way in, turning the sunshine a bit milky from the west as we go through the afternoon. Temperatures are widely going to be lower than today, but I think many of us will take that for the sunny skies. Then, as we go later tomorrow and overnight into Sunday, a band of rain turning to snow across northern and eastern parts pushes its way in. That then clears away towards the east through Sunday with further showery rain, which could be quite heavy, particularly across parts of the south as we go through the day, and that could cause some issues with the ground so very saturated. A bit of flooding is possible. More changeable weather to come as we go into next week.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News every week.
You're not only watching and listening to our programmes, you're becoming part of them too.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from gbnews.com. On the A92 Tay Road Bridge, traffic is restricted both ways for planned maintenance. In Wales, the A4232 northbound from St Fagans towards the M4 at junction 33 is slow with heavy congestion. In Yorkshire, the A64 eastbound entry slip from the A1036 has a crash closing one of two lanes. And in Oxfordshire, the M40 northbound at junction 6 has an incident with 2 of 3 lanes shut, causing delays of around 1.5 hours. On the trains, cross-country has disruption between Brockenhurst and Bournemouth, and Great Western Railway reports disruption on multiple routes. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
We want you to boost your bank account with an incredible £30,000 in tax-free cash to spend however you like. There's also a terrific £10,000 to spend on a Riviera travel holiday of a lifetime for 2. So whether you fancy a cruise or an escorted tour, you'll have over 30 worldwide destinations to choose from.
For another chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB19, PO Box 8690, Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 27th of February. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I ever got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Charlie Peters. On tonight's show, I'm joined by the broadcaster and journalist Emma Wolfe. Left in the corner is the political commentator Matthew Stadland. Real World, Real People tonight is with Tony Kunis. He's the CEO of Face INT. We're talking all things facial recognition with him. And for Last Orders behind this bar, I'll be joined by the legal pharmacist Thorin Govind. Loads coming up, but first, let's get to the news.
Good evening, I'm Sophia Wenzel with your headlines from the GB Newsroom. Lord Mandelson has reportedly been summoned to appear before Congress to testify about his relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. It's understood House Democrats sent a letter to the disgraced peer tonight calling on him to give evidence to the Oversight Committee as part of their investigation into the paedophile. The Prime Minister has called for the UK to work with Europe, saying there's no UK security without European security. There's no European security without UK security. Sir Keir Starmer is attending the Munich Security Conference today, where the German Chancellor has warned that the world order as we know it no longer exists. Two men responsible for a plot to murder as many Jews as possible in Manchester have been sentenced to life in jail after they were found guilty of preparing attacks between December 2023 and May 2024. Waleed Sadawi and Ammar Hussein were foiled by Greater Manchester Police and counter-terrorism as they planned to target Jewish schools, synagogues and shops. Police have shot a man near the Arc de Triomphe who tried to attack officers with a knife today. That's according to the Paris mayor. The French anti-terrorist department added it was aware of the situation and had opened an inquiry into the incident. Those are your latest GB News headlines. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello and welcome to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Charlie Peters. Tonight, delighted to be joined by the broadcaster and journalist Emma Wolfe and the political commentator Matthew Stadland. We're starting the programme this evening with a very important topic on justice, because the Justice Secretary David Lammy is facing calls to block the early release of a prisoner called Zahid Iqbal, an Islamist who was jailed after he conspired to carry out a terrorist attack at an Army Reserve centre in Luton. He is being released despite his prison offender manager saying that should not happen. We'll start with you, Emma. What is your view on this decision? Do you think that the Justice Secretary should be using his powers to block these sorts of decisions?
Absolutely not. I take a really simple view about incarceration and early release. If you have been sentenced to be behind bars, you know, the justice system has decided that you should be behind bars. There is a reason why people are so worried about this early release. We have seen thousands and thousands of men, it is men, being released onto our streets early. There is a reason why people are worried about that, because it's not safe. If, on the other hand, the probation service are fit for purpose, they are not at the moment. If they are fit for purpose, if they deem someone is safe, someone is rehabilitated, someone should be back in our society and should be contributing and should be out on the streets, fine. But the probation service is in absolute crisis. So what on earth are we doing releasing dangerous offenders onto our streets? In December and in the past few months, we saw record high numbers of recalls to prison. So absolutely no to early release and absolutely no to Iqbal.
Emma, looking at the situation that the government are in, they'll definitely say, look, we've inherited a broken system. You've said it yourself, that probation is in disarray. It's not just probation, of course. The full spectrum of the justice system is on its knees.
Exactly.
The courts don't work. The prisons are overflowing. You've got Victorian prisons with cells designed for one person with two in them. That's happening across the country. So what sort of position is David Lammy in even to deal with this problem?
You've also got prison guards sleeping with prisoners. You've also got drug dealing and mobile phones, you know, insane levels. There's one reason prisoners are being released early. That's not because they're safe. It's because, as you say, the court system and the judicial system and the prison system are on their knees. And Labour have promised reform. Shabana Mahmood has promised reform. David Lammy has promised reform. And guess what? They've failed.
Matthew, what can Labour do to turn around this situation? I know there's that criticism that the Conservatives left this system in a totally broken state, but we're nearly 2 years in now since the Labour government came into power. When can they start to turn it around? And until they do that, these sorts of decisions, they are unacceptable, aren't they?
So it's difficult for me to double guess the parole board, and the parole board will take in all sorts of evidence in their decision making. What I would say is, as I understand it, the Justice Secretary has limited powers when it comes to overturning decisions of the parole board. So I think they can appeal decisions effectively. There could be a process of reconsideration, but I don't think David Lammy can simply say, you've got it wrong, send this bloke back to prison. Is there an Islamist threat in our country? Of course there is, and our security services are working, I've no doubt, round the clock to handle that. On the issue, the wider issues of the justice system and the crisis it's facing, I echo much of what you've said, Charlie, and it's really important that that is gripped. However, I can't see how it's going to be gripped unless significant amounts of money are put into it, because with a Victorian system that you describe, we don't want to have cells designed for one person where two people are living in them, because that's not just bad for the individuals who are still human beings, but also presumably
bad for rehabilitation. And
exactly, has consequences further down the line, which are therefore bad for all of us.
But Matthew, you're saying that there is a lack of power afforded to the Justice Secretary. Well, Chris Philp, the Shadow Home Secretary, has said that using the Victims and Prisoners Act of 2024, Conservative legislation, that David Lammy could actually block this decision. So that's being disputed. And on to the wider point, though, about to what extent this system can be fixed. Is it in Labour's remit to get it done quickly enough? What do you make of Matthew's points there?
It's their job to get it done. And if there is a scintilla of doubt about someone possibly reoffending, whether that's an Islamic terrorist or whether it's a domestic abuser who might be then out on the streets again, if there is a shred of doubt on that, people should not be released. Prisoners, convicts should not be released. They should be behind bars. And I don't care, actually, about the conditions that they are kept in as much as I care about the public and the safety of the public. And that has to be the most important thing. And yes, they haven't dealt with this situation. Yes, overcrowding. Yes, terrible, terrible conditions. But I've always said about prisons, you need to rehabilitate people. You don't just lock them up and then release them after 5 years or 10 years and expect them to be model citizens. How's that going to work? They need to be rehabilitated.
It's much more difficult, as I think Charlie and I agree, to rehabilitate people when they are living in inhumane conditions. Just on the Chris Philp point, I don't know whether he's right or wrong, but what I would say is we've got to be very careful, I think, as a society, not to put justice in the hands of politicians, because that can then lead to...
But Parliament sets the sentencing guidelines. That comes from politics. That comes from Parliament.
Sure, but what I'm saying is I don't think we want politicians to give themselves too much power when it comes to imprisonment, because we don't want politicians, for their own political ends, to be determining how long people stay in prison.
But that's exactly what happens already. I mean, that is how it works in Britain. There isn't this sort of separation of the state.
No, it's not.
That people imagine happens.
People, Charlie, no, politicians do not sentence people.
I know, but they set the sentences. Parliament chooses how long people go to prison for.
They do, but what we don't want is once someone is sentenced, for politicians to be able to come along and say, actually, I think they should still be in prison for 1, 2, 3, 4 years.
As in they should overrule the parole board, for example. You don't think that should happen?
Well, as I've said, I think they already have the powers to institute a process of reconsideration. What I'm saying is if there is political pressure on the Justice Secretary to keep someone in prison, and he then were able to overrule the decision of the parole board for political reasons that might be useful to him or her as the Justice Secretary, or indeed to the government, that is problematic, because we don't want to have political prisoners in our country.
Well, I don't think that this Islamist who's facing early release could ever be considered a political prisoner if pressure is done to keep him behind bars. But Emma, talking more generally about this, we do already have political efforts to check again when judges make decisions on lenient sentences, for example. There was a man last year who was found guilty, finally, and imprisoned, having forced a teenage girl in Bradford to be married to him while he was part of a grooming gang. His sentence was deemed too lenient. Pressure was put on. He was put behind bars for a much longer time. That sort of thing should take place when the political pressure is there.
Of course the politicians are in charge of all this. They set the budgets, they, run the Home Office, or they try to run the Home Office, they run the judicial system, of course they do. And, we've had endless discussions about, about whether people should be allowed back into our country, about the whole court system, and about the whole issue of early release. So I think, this is absolutely an area where politicians need to take a lead.
And do you think it's an example, Emma, of the country more generally not taking the Islamist threat more seriously? We have a terrorist here being released from prison before his sentence is up. This is a man who was plotting to kill soldiers at an Army Reserve centre. We're seeing many other Islamists being inspired by similar attacks on soldiers in Britain outside Woolwich Barracks, the murder of Lee Rigby, for example, well over 10 years now. These sorts of appalling acts of violence, they do inspire others. And when someone is caught plotting in that way, how can they be let out early?
How can they be let out early? But also, why are they not being deported? That would be my question. Why are they not being deported? And we hear about the overcrowded prisons and the creaking justice system and the blocked up courts. And then we have, people being imprisoned for things like Facebook posts. So, there is a real crisis in this country about where the priorities should be and what we take seriously.
Matthew,
how many more threats do we need?
You can't be deported if you're British, right? So let's just be completely clear.
Well, there have been many cases we have removed the British citizenship of offenders, for example, grooming gang perpetrators in Rochdale. So you can be deported if you're British, if you're a dual national.
It's incredibly difficult to, and rightly so, to remove someone's British citizenship. Jacob Rees-Mogg of this parish, a presenter on GB News, does not believe, and nor do I, in two-tier British citizenship, just to put that out there. On the issue of early release, let's be again clear about this. This was part of the original sentence. So it's not as though someone's saying, let's let this person out earlier than the judge intended.
Right.
It's part of the sentence.
And Matthew, we know what the system is, but the problem is, I think people are waking up to how bad it is. They know that there is early release as part of the original sentence. But I think a lot of people in Britain are now seeing this sort of sentencing, seeing people being released from prison, maybe halfway through or 3/4 of the way through what they were said to be getting, and that causes frustration.
Sometimes after a third of their term, they're being released. And look at the evidence from the probation service. They are not equipped, they're not experienced enough to deal with this. They are not able to deal with the workloads that they have. They are not able to do that proper assessment where it goes through the parole board and they assess the risk. And if there's any risk, of course this man should not be out on our streets.
More money is needed to fix the justice system.
I don't think it's just about more money. It's reorganisation and proper leadership.
But all of that requires cash too. What would you cut to fund more injustice?
Foreign aid.
Yourself, Matthew?
I'd have to think very deeply about it because these questions come up again and again and again. We recognise that almost across the board, there needs to be more money injected into our public services, including the justice system. Where you find cuts or whether you decide to raise taxation, those are key political questions. If we give up entirely on foreign aid, and that's already been slashed,
there's always money to send abroad.
Let me just make the point. We are then giving up on our soft power and our influence around the world, which is incredibly important.
Matthew, if you live in Luton, where this man was plotting a terrorist attack, soft power in Pakistan and India and other countries around the world possibly matters less to you than preventing.
That's not how we run our taxation system.
Clearly not. And that's part of the crisis.
I'm saying we rightly look at things in the round, and part of our soft power is trying to make the world a better place.
Soft power. We have zero soft power.
You two have to leave it there. Coming up after the break on Real World, Real People, I'll be speaking to the CEO of Face INT, Tony Kunis, to discuss facial recognition technology.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Charlie Peters. It's time now for the best segment of the show, Real World, Real People. And I'm very happy to say that this week we're joined by Tony Kunis, who is the CEO of Face INT. Tony, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
We're talking to you because British Transport Police, they're trialling facial recognition technology. What does your company do and what's your reaction to what the police are trying at the moment?
Well, at Face INT, we give the users the layer of security needed for after the picture is taken. We do not store any images or any photos or biometric details of the user. This makes it very, very safe, and it also gives a safety net to the actual operator, and it saves them from a lot of costly litigation.
So you're working with people using facial recognition to make sure the product is used properly after it's being captured?
Correct. We also supply it ourselves in many different applications, but we ultimately provide that layer of security that's needed.
A lot of people have concerns about this technology because they think it's a risk on privacy, that also it might bring in bias as well. At Face INT, what's your perspective on those two concerns?
Well, look, at this very early stage, there are biases, but...
What sort of biases are there? I mean, what does that mean?
Well, the systems have not learnt enough yet. They haven't had enough miles on the road, basically, for testing. And as we go by week, the systems get better, they learn more, and the biases will disappear. So this is just a very early stage problem, basically. It's not something that will last.
So they're picking up more on men, or is it a racial issue? What are they getting wrong at the moment?
No, at the beginning it was people of colour. It was harder to identify,
right.
But that's totally gone now. It would just be the system learning in the way that it's been programmed, basically. As the program gets more involved, it will learn more and it will identify. It will sort out all the biases.
That's on the bias front. When it comes to privacy, though, a lot of campaigners think that this is the government expanding its remit, taking on powers it really shouldn't have, and that we're all being scanned and stored in some centralised system. That's got a lot of people's backs up. Do you think that's a legitimate concern?
It is a legitimate concern. I think that's the major concern. It's not the facial recognition that's been used at the moment. It's how they're storing everybody's biometric details. Now, what do they do with a picture the minute that after they've taken it? A lot of people and companies say they're deleting it, but who is policing that? And that's where Face INT comes in. There's no need for any complications or anything like that. The picture is just never stored, but it's still correct for identification, access and control and verification.
It's clear that police, they really love this tool, right? When it comes to catching criminals who've escaped them after they've got some information about them, that this technology has been a game changer for a lot of forces. Do you want to see it rolled out more generally across policing in the country?
I think in terms of policing, it has to be rolled out. We don't have as many police officers on the street anymore, and it's another layer of defence for the police. As a father, I would rather it be out on the streets than it be not.
I think also, we have a big problem in this country with illegal migration and also with people just going missing, right? People are entering the country, overstaying their visa, maybe 1 million to 2 million people who we just can't track. We don't know where they are. If there was a scanning system at the port of entry, which we have in this country, right? You get scanned when you go through your passport. If that system's in place, if someone overstays and they go missing, a camera picks them up in a city centre, and then immigration could swoop in and deal with it.
Correct. Border control is one of the most vital areas for facial recognition. This country has a big problem with illegal immigrants. They're coming in, they take a good 12 months to be processed, they're sent back, they just get another ID and come back into the country. Now, if they were captured on the facial recognition device at the first instance, they wouldn't have to go through that whole process again. It's a costly process and it's failing at the minute.
Talking about costly processes, one of the arguments the government was pushing earlier in its rule since 2024 was digital ID, right? This idea that instead of having papers and checks, you have this system whereby everyone can be checked and registered by the state. Do you think that facial recognition could remove the need for that in this case? Because the argument the government made was that this would deal with illegal migration, this would allow us to track people more accurately and make sure everyone was meant to be here. Recognition technology, that could do away with that?
Well, you're never going to lose your face and you're always going to have it with you. So it's probably the best way forward.
Right.
And it will get rid of everything, like your passwords, for instance. How many passwords do you have to remember now on a daily basis when we can use our face? We're never going to lose that. So for ease of use in every walk of life, in different sectors, it will be more prominent in the future.
What would be the most reassuring message you could give to people who are nervous about this technology, who are seeing what's being done, who are seeing it being rolled out by the police, who are really hesitant? What would you say to them?
I wouldn't be nervous at all about the rollout of facial recognition. I'll be more nervous and I'll be asking the questions on how they're storing our information after that. And that's the key here. With AI and everything else that's out in this world at the minute, if your picture is taken and your details are hacked, now I can create every document in the world. And that's the biggest problem that facial recognition faces at the minute.
I suppose some people look at the priorities that the police have, how they use their powers. Perhaps they're spending too much time prosecuting people for what they post online when they could be going after shoplifting, petty criminals, violent offenders. Are you worried? I think a lot of people at home will be worried as well that facial recognition technology could allow the police to pursue some of those bad priorities more aggressively.
No, I wouldn't be worried. We want crime to disappear at the end of the day.
But what if your crime is tweeting? Say you got a profile picture, right? You've said something which the state doesn't like. You go out on the streets, your face pops up on a system, and they go, aha.
I don't think that'll be anything to do with facial recognition. It'll just be from the police and the government at the time, and the policies that they're pushing. Facial recognition is there to do certain jobs. For policing is one thing, but we're going to see it more and more in everyday life, in the office, at home, in the airports, border control, even in the shops. Eventually, we'll be paying by using our face.
So it's just something to accept, adapt to it.
Adapt to it, embrace it.
I don't know. I think there'll be some people watching at home thinking, do you know what? I don't want the state to just have a constant capture of who I am based on where I go. You can see their concerns, can't you? Say?
Yes, but you've already got it on passports. You've already got it on driving licenses. It's not like the picture has never been here.
But it's that feeling of constantly being scanned everywhere you go. Right?
Well, this is the police, is facial recognition. And I think it'll take a while to roll it out across the country and used every single day. But I don't think we should be scared of that side.
All right. Tony Kunis, thanks so much for your time.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Top man.
Thank you.
Right, coming up next on Lee Anderson's Real World, it's right versus left. Emma Wolf versus Matthew Stadlin. I get stuck in myself as well. You're not going to want to miss it.
Hello again, very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. Yes, there will be quite a bit of sunshine for many of us tomorrow, but before that we have a cold and for many icy night to come. That's because the weather systems that have brought today's cloud and rain, they are shifting further southwards, allowing for clearer, colder air to come in from the north. So still cloudy with some outbreaks of rain for a little while yet across central southern parts of England and Wales, but even here it's turning dry and then white widely across the country, there'll be a lot of dry and clear weather. With that cold air and those clear skies, temperatures are going to drop, just about holding up above freezing towards the south in some towns and cities, but most places falling a fair few degrees below. In fact, across parts of Scotland, it could get into negative double figures. So a harsh frost for many of us, widespread icy conditions. There could be still some lying snow in places, and the ice is going to lead to some difficult driving conditions as well. First thing tomorrow morning, the ice risk is across much of the country, really, just towards the south-southeast, where temperatures hold up that little bit higher. Less of an ice risk here, but nonetheless, there could still be some frost in prone spots as well. So a cold, frosty, icy start to the day tomorrow, but a bright one. Lots of sunshine on offer for most of us. Perhaps a bit of cloud lingering across some parts of East Anglia, but elsewhere, a sunny morning before some high-level cloud sweeps its way in, turning the sunshine a bit milky from the west as we go through the afternoon. Temperatures are widely going to be lower than today, but I think many of us will take that for the sunny skies. Then, as we go later tomorrow and overnight into Sunday, a band of rain turning to snow across northern eastern parts pushes its way in. That then clears away towards the east through Sunday with further showery rain, which could be quite heavy, particularly across parts of the south as we go through the day, and that could cause some issues with the ground so very saturated. A bit of flooding is possible. More changeable weather to come as we go into next week.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Welcome back to Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Charlie Peters. And joining me still in our pub studio is the broadcaster and journalist Emma Wolf, and of course, the commentator Matthew Stadlen. Now, both of you were talking about Sir Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister. Very dangerous and difficult week for him, Matthew. Accused of supporting two men he really should not have promoted into the House of Lords, Peter Mandelson and Matthew Doyle. Both of them facing serious allegations, and in Matthew Doyle's case, that he was supporting a politician after he'd been charged of child sex offences, and in the case of Peter Mandelson, maintaining that very close relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. How difficult is this for Sir Keir Starmer's premiership, and could it bring it all down?
So it's very difficult. It's been very difficult for the Prime Minister. I think he will survive. I mean, I've been saying for a while, and of course, when the facts change, I change my view. And I think this latest Matthew Doyle story is really difficult for Starmer, coming so hot on the heels of the Mandelson scandal. But I've been saying for a while, I think he will survive this year. I think he will. I think that the system is in his favour. It's incredibly difficult to remove a sitting Labour Prime Minister. You need 20% of MPs. It hasn't happened before. We haven't had a Labour Prime Minister toppled by his own MPs. I don't see at the moment obvious alternatives. So I think he will survive this year. I know that there's almost a media consensus that he will go in May. I don't think he will. I may be proved wrong. On the substance of these scandals, I thought it was a bad decision that he appointed Peter Mandelson to the most senior ambassadorial role this country has. I thought it was a weird decision at the time. I thought it was a bad decision in September when this story first broke. I think it's a bad decision now. On the Matthew Doyle story, I think that's problematic for Starmer, because why did he see fit to elevate him to the House of Lords in December and then this week decide actually he shouldn't have the Labour whip? That seems to me to be inconsistent.
And Emma, it seems as though he's being led by sort of press coverage and pressure rather than actually using his own political leadership. When it comes to the Peter Mandelson decision, it strikes me as sort of a politician who's obsessed with process, always doing things sort of the civil service way. For once, making a decision outside the box and it's come back to bite him. And finally, he was a bit flexible, did something interesting, a political appointee, and it's been a total disaster.
Look, people said you can't strip someone of their peerage. Yes, you can. You can't strip someone of their royal title. Yes, you can. It was done. You say you can't get rid of a sitting Prime Minister. Yes, you can. Let's just say you can't. Let's just say the stench of these paedophile connections, let's put it that way, is not going away. The questions will not go away. Who knew what when? Whether it's a failure of the vetting process, whether it's a failure of the Prime Minister's judgment, whether he didn't have the information that the rest of us had on the front of the Sunday Times about Matthew Doyle, it doesn't matter. The public are not idiots. The public know what they see. The Prime Minister, what we keep hearing from the Prime Minister is, oh, I've taken action, I've done the right thing. When the facts have changed, when this has come to light, I've done the right thing. That is very, very different to making a proper judgment at the time, not appointing people who are unfit for public office. Charlie, can I make a point? People are struggling right now with cost of living and all the stuff that we hear about, paying the bills, going to work. And we are paying these men, and they are men, we are paying these men's salaries. We are paying their severance pay for absolutely disgraceful behaviour.
Matthew, when we hear what Emma's just said about these are men, there is an element of the Labour Party at the moment which is arguing that Sir Keir Starmer has a women problem, that there needs to be a more senior woman in government to provide a new perspective. I heard the Labour MP, Rachel Maskell, making that point this week as well. I think a lot of voters will hear that and say, the problem with Sir Keir Starmer isn't that there are not enough sort of women around him, but rather the decision-making, the political direction isn't there. What do you make of that argument? Does he need more identity politics in government to get it right?
So first of all, clearly Keir Starmer's decision-making is rightly in the spotlight. I've already
he's the Prime Minister, that's going to happen regardless of what he's doing.
Right, but I think he's made some bad decisions.
Yeah.
Do I think he should resign? I think the Matthew Doyle story...
Sorry, the question isn't whether or not he should resign. The question is, does he need more women around him? Like Rachel Maskell has said, like other Labour MPs...
Say this, not the question. I'll answer the question, but it is on the tips of everyone's tongue at the moment, isn't it, whether Starmer should resign?
That was my first question. And my second question is whether or not he needs more women around him.
My first answer to your first question was that I don't think he will resign. The question is, should he resign? I don't think it would be in the interest of the country for him to resign.
Matthew, am I going mad? We already went round that. I'm asking another question now, very specifically about whether or not Sir Keir Starmer has a women problem. Does he need more women around him, yes or no?
I don't think he has a women problem in the sense that he has appointed a number of women to his cabinet.
Yeah.
But I do take very seriously what Lisa Nandy said. I think very recently, I think possibly yesterday, it popped up on my social media feed, and she said that Number 10 had been dripping, I think, with misogyny. Now, that is a front bench, senior female Labour politician saying that there is a woman problem or a sexism, misogyny problem in the Prime Minister's office. Therefore, of course, it's a problem. Sure. And that needs to be sorted out, and sorted out very quickly. Just a quick reflection, by the way, on this week's Prime Minister's questions. I think it was a poor Prime Minister's questions for Starmer, not just because I think he didn't really engage with the Matthew Doyle issue, because I think it is a difficult issue for him and he's on weak ground, but also he was rather petulant in his answers. And I wonder whether that's because he's lost his Chief of Staff this week and his Head of Comms. And it's going to be fascinating and also extremely important for the country to see how he now moves forward. His supporters hope that the shackles will be off and he will now be a more self-confident Prime Minister and able to govern in his own image.
People are waiting for him to do that for so long. We always hear he does great speeches in private, but Emma never seems to manage to turn it on when the public are watching.
I'm a woman. You can ask me the question about whether he has a woman problem or not.
We've got 3 hosts here. This is great. Yes, does he have a women problem then?
I don't care about people's gender. I know so many women that I respect, and I know other women that I don't respect. In terms of politicians, there are some great female politicians, there are some great male politicians. I think we are obsessed, and I think Labour are pretty, are bad at this obsession. Do you remember how many times Rachel Reeves has reminded us that she was the first female Chancellor of the Exchequer?
The opposition to her was driven by...
Margaret Thatcher never banged on about it. It's kind of beside the point. You have good politicians, you have interesting people, you have clever, intelligent, intuitive people, and you have complete and utter idiots. Yeah. You have people people who make terrible judgments. In terms of the paedophile thing, of course, we don't see any female paedophiles out there, high-profile paedophile connections, friendships with Epstein.
So Ghislaine Maxwell is currently in prison
and
right
she's
now.
the only one.
We'll see.
She's the only one who's in prison.
We have heard
all the men are walking free.
We've had quite a few people come out sort of, as it were, in support of those close to Epstein at the time. A lot of them have been women saying if you weren't on those lists, you weren't cool. Remarkable sort of language to hear.
Well, a few socialite, yeah. But back to Morgan McSweeney him being unshackled without his chief of staff. McSweeney was basically Keir Starmer's brains, and he's in big trouble without him. You saw him this week at PMQs. Kemi Badenoch played an absolute blinder, and Starmer was struggling, absolutely struggling.
Matthew, Emma, we've got to leave it there on Sir Keir Starmer, but it's time now for our yes-no quiz. You know the rules. You can only answer yes or no. So clues in the name, isn't it? And first, we're asking, should we prioritise funding for border security over the climate? Matthew?
Yes.
Yes.
That was an easy one, wasn't it? Straightforward. Should student loan debt be written off by the government?
No.
No.
OK, firm agreement so far. And should the police be allowed to routinely share information about a suspect's nationality, ethnicity and immigration status?
Yes.
Yes.
I can guarantee that you're going to get a yes there from Emma Wolf. And should governments have the authority to ban protests in major cities if they're going to be disruptive?
No.
Yes.
All right, finally, a bit of split. And finally, and this is the question on everyone's lips, was Sir Jim Ratcliffe right, the owner of Manchester United, when he said that Britain had been colonised by immigrants?
No.
No.
OK, a hesitation from you there, Emma. Why are you giving a cautious no?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Firstly, he's a bit of a hypocrite. He's billionaire status and he's now resident in, I think, Monaco, or pays tax in Monaco or somewhere like that.
He's a working class lad from the north who did well. I mean,
who's done well, yeah.
He's got an inspiration.
No, but I have issues with this. I don't like the use of the word colonise, but I do think he's making an important point about immigration and about the problems in this country.
I just feel very strongly about this. And on that first question as to whether we should prioritise border security or the climate, it's obviously not an either-or, so it's a very difficult question for me to answer, but it is the first responsibility of a government to make sure that the state, the realm, is safe and secure. That's why I answered that should be the priority, but of course these are not in antithesis to each other, and I think you'd agree that yes and no isn't necessarily, it's fun, it's not necessarily the best way to do with politics.
But all of those questions were quite nuanced.
It forces you to think clearly about why we do them.
But same with student loans, you know, if people are doing the legitimate degrees...
Oh, we're not going to go through every single one.
No, but we're not.
Let's get back to Sir Jim.
On the issue, you really like being in control, don't you?
Hey, you can apply for this job if you want.
No thanks. Off you go to the army in a minute. Listen, where you'll be put in line. On the issue of Jim Ratcliffe, I think it was an outrageous comment. First of all, he said that the population of this country, the UK, in 2020 was 58 million, but it wasn't. It was 67 million as an estimate. That's what the ONS, the Office for National Statistics, claimed. Now, maybe he was confusing it with 26 years ago, whatever. It was wrong and it was a big mistake. Secondly, I agree with Emma. There's a massive problem with the word colonise.
Are you also upset with the word decolonise, when people say we need to decolonise the curriculum? Do you think that's a problem as well, to use that language?
I think it's ridiculous sort of right-wing wokery. What I do think
that's not coming from the right.
What I do think is, well, it's a preoccupation at the moment of the right. What I do think
preoccupation of many lefties as well.
That we, as a colonial power, we took other people's land, essentially or ultimately over the barrel of a gun. That's not okay. We wouldn't like it done to us. Immigrants who have come to this country, the overwhelming majority of them have come to this country to build a life and contribute very significantly to national life. To say that these people have colonised us
Matthew,
is truly disgusting.
Go to an area, let's say Glodick in Oldham, Emma. OK, now this is an area which does not have a significant multicultural society. That is a place that is very insular and very set. Would you say that as a colonised area like Sir Jim? Or would you say it's a problem, but you wouldn't use that language?
I wouldn't use the language colonised, because I think what's happening is exactly what we expect when we use this kind of emotive language, is that the left could get completely obsessed with that and they ignore the issue. And the issue is
that not a bit we're doing here?
But let me get to the issue, which is there are areas of the country where people simply don't feel that it's Britain anymore.
Right.
Where they simply don't. I mean, you know, there are many public services you use, and it is overwhelmingly being used by foreigners. There are schools where English is not the first language anymore. There are hospitals, there are NHS services where you are literally not able to access it.
That's a problem, and I think it's, because he's used that word, Matthew and Emma, I think we're going to lose that debate, and everyone's going to be focusing on that instead, frankly, because it's easy.
Sorry, no, this is just, excuse me here, right? So, first of all, schools where English isn't the first language, children in school speak English, right? That's what they do. Secondly, you talk about this area in Oldham. I'm sure you've been there. Talk to people. Talk to lots and lots of people. Many of these people, most of these people will be British. The children will have been born in this country. You become English and British within moments of being born. No, within moments of being born in this country. Do I think you needed integration, Charlie? Now I'm going to make the point. Do I think we need integration? Do I want to have silos to the extent there are any in this country? Do I think we need integration? Yes. Do I like silos? No. We want to have a regret. No, but it's not that they have colonised us, and it's not that they're not British. It's that we need to make sure that we do everything we can to promote integration and a sense of national identity.
And the problem we have at the moment with very high levels of immigration is that it's been very difficult.
It makes it more difficult. It does make it more difficult.
That's all we've got time for on the Yes No quiz. It was a draw. Congratulations, you're both winners today. Coming up next, I'll be speaking to the legal pharmacist Thorin Govind.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Having seen so much stormy weather across parts of Western Europe recently, finally a change is on the way. It's still windy this weekend in Spain, Portugal and across much of Italy. Spells of rain moving in here, reaching eventually parts of Greece and Croatia. But it is looking drier and brighter for much of Spain and Portugal despite that strong wind. And that steady improvement continues into next week. Still breezy with showers around, but not as stormy as it has been.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Bold. They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get this on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now, they are throwing things out the cars.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, that sounds like last orders here at the bar, and I'm joined by Thorin Govind, a legal pharmacist, health lawyer and pharmacist. Talk to me about that strange combination, Thorin.
So I'm a practicing pharmacist, but I am also a healthcare lawyer, so really interested in all things related to
One
healthcare
career wasn't
law.
enough for you, basically.
Well, and now we've got a new career. I'm here behind the bar, first time ever behind the bar.
That's great. You're with us, you're ready to go. And we're talking about a big problem we're having in the country with the shortages for pharmacies, drug shortages at the moment. How concerning is that for you as a pharmacist?
Well, we do get a lot of patients who are concerned. I have had patients who've, broken down in front of me because they're concerned about the supply of their medication. So we're doing everything that we can. We're spending hours each day trying to get hold of medications, but we are suffering abuse. So we really are welcoming the public's support and understanding, because it is difficult.
There's well over 100 drugs right now are at major shortages for pharmacies. Are you worried you might have to start making them yourselves behind the counter?
Well, I know, I was just thinking there must be a mortar and pestle in here somewhere, but yeah, we don't have as much homegrown manufacture of drugs anymore like we used to. So I am concerned about that, and there needs to be a lot more investment here in the UK.
Yeah, so Thorin, you can make your own drugs perhaps, you could make some aspirin behind the bar, but can you pour a pint? So give it a go, shall we?
Shall I give it a go? Let's give it a go.
First time, I've got tremendous confidence in you.
Okay, I've looked this up, obviously.
I think full hand.
Full hand.
Bit of grasp,
Okay.
confidence and grasp. That's a good start.
Here we go. Good start. I've been told 45-degree angle.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Decent amount of foam. Now, I like that. That looks pretty drinkable to me. Good start.
Cheers.
Well, that's not quite a pint. I want a full pint.
I'm
Come
sorry.
on, Thorin, I believe in you.
It's because shortages. I've got to make sure it goes round.
I know.
That's
but
why.
No, this is a pub, not a pharmacy. You can do the full thing. Come on.
Okay, here we go. I'm not
Lovely.
sure about that.
Lovely. Looks like a 99p flake, that. Enough. Well, look.
I promise you, my clinical skills are better than my
Put it on the
pouring
bar.
skills.
Let's see if anyone might come pick that one up later. Give it some time to settle. I'll give myself a go, actually. Come on, then. Let's get stuck in. Come on, let's get stuck in. There's no shortages of pints in this pub.
He's cheating here. He's
I'm
pouring it away.
I'm getting rid of that
pouring
foam.
some of that
I'm getting
foam
rid of
away.
that foam. I'm getting rid of that foam. Come on now. Gently does it. That
Not
is
sure
a
about this,
complete
no.
disaster. Look at that. Beautiful pints here. Beautiful pints.
I think I did quite well then.
All right, so people who are struggling to get access to drugs at the moment, Thorin, you've got that advice for them, be patient and all the rest of it. Try and treat the pharmacists with respect as they're fighting for you at the moment. But it must be really frustrating for you in the trade dealing with these supply chain issues.
It's really tough. So at the moment, for some drugs, we can offer alternatives, but we're waiting for Parliament to release what's called a serious shortage protocol. So we're only allowed to make substitutions in certain aspects. So we're asking the government for us to be able to provide tablets rather than capsules in some cases. So we do need the help of Parliament and the government in this. But I think it's really difficult especially when you're trying to manage your life. Nigel Farage has been talking about flexibility of working from home. A lot of my patients can have shift work and things like that. So they're managing multiple responsibilities, and dealing with medicine shortages is not something they want to be having to deal with.
What Nigel Farage was talking about this week, of course, working from home, not an option available to pharmacists?
No, at the moment, we have to be in the pharmacy. You can't access your medication without the pharmacist available there. And I think it's just so important that people have access to a clinical healthcare professional on their high street, which is why we need to support our pharmacies.
Now, do you think that's a lack of flexibility that some pharmacists have concerns? Or do you need that secured process that you can visit a pharmacist, get that sort of check in person to make sure it's going the right way? Is there any room for flexibility there that people might prefer if they're having such a problem getting through to pharmacies, day and night?
There is a flexibility coming in. When we talk about what Nigel Farage was talking about there in terms of working from home, I think there's just such variety in the local community of the needs. You might have people who are, working mums who need to be able to get home for childcare, but that doesn't mean that they shouldn't have access to the work and be part of the gig economy and working.
Our pints are looking pretty good now. They're improving significantly. Do you want to give them a top up? Do you want to go for it?
Should we give it?
Go on.
Give it a top
I believe
up?
in you.
Okay. I'm not really a pint person.
You're not?
No.
What do you normally drink?
I'm normally...
That's significantly worse, I think, unfortunately. But I like it. We're going to give it a bit more time to settle. We've still got some time left, Thorin. So tell me about the journey of your career. How did you get to the stage when you were working in the legal and pharmaceutical worlds?
So I've always had an interest in medication and supporting the local community, but I also want to know, like, why is policy the way it is? Why is the NHS run the way it is? Why are there such rules when it comes to medication? So something that's really of interest to me at the moment, and we're seeing this a lot, is weight loss medication. We're seeing that plastered all over social media. And there's obviously a lot of misinformation online just about medication generally. So I want to be able to tackle that misinformation. And that's really important to me as well.
What sort of misinformation are people getting on these drugs then? How are people being misled?
Well, I think when you go online now, you're just bombarded with information. I think we also need to realise we're okay. We don't always need medication to treat an issue. There's a lot of other support as well, like holistic support, support to get out there and exercise, and also food habits are really interesting as well.
There are so many health influencers online, right? A lot of them are pushing a product rather than necessarily caring the most about your health and well-being. They're there for themselves a lot of the time, right?
Well, in terms of prescription-only medications, it's illegal to advertise prescription-only medications. So you can talk about the consultation and that sort of experience, but you shouldn't be encouraging people to go and get a prescription-only medication. They need to be able to access that with a regulated professional and having a proper consultation. And what we know is that some people are using these online platforms to actually get medication from unregulated sources. So stick to regulated sources, because otherwise you really don't know what you're getting.
There are so many fads in health and well-being, aren't there, at the moment? So many of them come and go. But this question of weight loss drugs, that's going to stick around, isn't it?
I think it's definitely going to stick around. There's a lot of drugs in the pipeline in this area. And if we think about so far, we've talked a lot about injectable ones, but there's also tablets, capsules, that sort of thing, which are potentially easier for people to use rather than an injection, which a lot of people may not want to use because of an injection. People are scared of needles, for example. But I want people to think holistically about their health. And we're in a pub, and I think there's a lot which goes on talking about pubs, and pubs are really a part of our society, aren't they? But I think there's lots of initiatives that are run through pubs, like community, and people come and meet people, and it's that loneliness aspect which is tackled by places like this. So I think that's important.
If you're struggling, if you're suffering, a lot of your health and well-being issues might be due to consuming too much information online. Get outdoors, get outside, get with people. As you said, you might not actually be as unwell as you think.
I think the power of community is powerful, and it's having other people to talk to about how you're feeling. And there's a lot about mental health these days, and we do have to work hard towards our own mental health, I think, as well. So getting out into our community, speaking to local people, and having our friends around us is so powerful.
Thorin Govin, thank you so much for your time. Let's have a little go at our pints here, poured beautifully.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bit foamy, I'd say.
Bit foamy. Not for me, that one, I'm sorry.
Well, thanks a million, Thorin. Thank you for watching Lee Anderson's Real World with me, Charlie Peters, and a big thank you to all my guests here tonight. Coming up next, it's State of the Nation with Alex Armstrong.
Thank you very much, Charlie. Let me just say I pulled a better pint than that when I was on that show. I'm going to throw that out there. Listen, tonight I've got a big show for you. This is a bit of a different State of the Nation here this evening. We're going to be talking about these Valentine's Day cards that have been written potentially to illegal migrants in Crowborough. It's after a Green Party councillor has encouraged others to share the love. What do you think about that? I'm going to highlight the dangers of doing activities like that one. Of course, Donald Trump is also moving another battleship into the Middle East. Is the situation with Iran about to escalate? That's next on State of the Nation.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again. Very good evening to you. I'm here with your GB News weather forecast from the Met Office.